Hello everyone, welcome to the Selfish stream for Tuesday night. Today, the project is the Brute. Excuse me. So, what we are going to be working on is getting this guy into gameplay shape, like his buddies back here. We're going to be taking some significant inspiration from the Sarastro set of tutorials, since that one is available for free. I did read up on it. I think Sarastro's style is amazing. I am definitely not skilled enough with the techniques that he uses, and honestly I can't be bothered to look up the conversions for all of the paints that he uses. So we are definitely going to be doing quite a bit of improvisation compared to... There we go. Compared to the original set of instructions that he's provided. So it's definitely not going to look just like that, and aside from that, we're also not rebasing him, so... Excuse me. So, we're going to use the Somber Gray as our color for his skin. He's going to get Leather Brown as his light leather and armor tone, or leather and fur, I should say, and Beastie Brown as the darker tone. We're also going to be using Charred Brown, Bone White, Scarlet Red, Hot Orange, and Gunmetal for some of the details. We'll be using Black and Dead White. And Glorious Gold is going to be our metallic color for most of his armor, although Gunmetal is going to be used for his sword instead. So, oh yes, and we're going to be using a mix of the Sepia Shade and Black washes in order to get him properly tinted once we get to that point. So, we are going to start in... let's see where we want to begin on him. Looks like he's got a fair amount of exposed skin, but it's all underneath other details. So I think we're going to start on that. And then we'll move on to his furs. We're going to also get, after the furs, we're going to get his... say his shield, then the and the bones, his head antenna feather things, and we're also going to get all of the gold and like other metallic blocking done as well. We'll probably wait to do that until after we've done the wash, though, since I want to be a little bit cautious about how I do that. Like I said, we are going to be taking some serious inspiration from Sarastro's tutorial, but we will not be following it anywhere near exactly. So, let me just briefly adjust my camera. That'll be about where I'm going to be mostly working on him. Sorry for the noise of that being adjusted. Okay. So, let's set that aside for the moment, get our brush and our colors ready. So as usual, we're starting with our, yes, hello. We're starting off with our Vallejo 3.0 brush. And we're going to be beginning with his skin tone, so Somber Gray, which we might want to mix a little bit of Leather Brown into, but I'm not sure about that just yet. I'm going to see what it looks like after I've mixed it. Yeah, it looks like that's probably bluer than I want it, so I am going to add a little bit of Leather Brown, probably just one drop. So we're going to do a 1:3 ratio of Leather Brown to Somber Gray for his base skin tone. See how that looks before we move on. this is not achieving the effect that I hoped. There's far too much leather brown in here. Well, maybe not. Let's see. It just took a second to mix all the way in. Yeah, that might be okay. Might be okay as a base coat. I think that'll be alright. That is the color we're using. As you can see, it's not mixed quite evenly, so... I mean, I could have the camera pointing at my lap, but somehow I don't think that really makes compelling TV. So we're starting with this like slightly yellowed off gray, and that's going to be most of his skin. Hopefully we're going to end up with a similar color to this by the end of this. Just a bit lighter and sort of mottled, I guess. That's a good way to put it. Let's get the back of his head here. It's actually not too far off the color he already is. Bottled model. It does look a little gross, but it's also not the color it's going to stay. So, in his art, Sarastro has painted this guy with gold pauldrons and a gold breastplate, but his art shows it more, definitely a lot closer to the same color as his skin or his like leather armor bits. So that's an example of where I'm going to borrow from Sarastro a little bit. We are going to be coloring all of his armor gold, because I think that does look better in terms of how it's going to be on the table. So going to get his upper to mid arms, which are exposed. Some of this bit underneath the pauldrons is exposed. Part of his legs are exposed, but only a small amount. And then most of his torso as well. So it's got a fair amount of different areas to mess with. Lots of layered stuff. Most of the other characters had only a few layers from bottom to top. Of those we've done so far, I think probably the Scoundrel had the most distinct layers that all needed to be different colors. And the Tinkerer probably had more separate layers, but they were all sort of the same material. It was copper on top of leather on top of leather. But in this case, he's got a whole bunch of different stuff sort of piled on, like different textures and everything. So he's a little bit of a different beast than what we've done so far. He is pretty forgiving because of his size. There's a lot of room to work on most of this stuff. Okay, let's get the side of this arm over here. Just kind of goes down behind his shield and underneath his pauldron. I would, for the record, prefer to have my entire work area on camera, but that's just not really an option because of how I'm set up. Okay, now let's get his legs and hands. Now we can move on to the next thing. Smallest to the biggest. Smallest what to biggest what? Mini. I mean, I went directly from the smallest mini to the biggest mini between yesterday and today. So I did not start with the smallest, if that's what you mean. Yeah, yesterday is by far the smallest one. The Tinkerer is very small. At least of the starting 6. I haven't spoiled the rest for myself, so I don't know how big the other ones are. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. Super sloppy. It's very close to the color we had underneath, so it doesn't matter much. Yeah, looks good. So next, let's do our lighter armor color. And some of the gold we're actually going to paint over in that same color. And then that's going to be kind of the basis for the gold color. We're not going to paint white over some parts of that, and I think that's going to be good for getting the different subcoats to show through. And we're also going to mix our darker base brown, because we're going to need to apply that while the paint is still wet on the back of the cloak. And that is another technique that I'm going to be just straight up stealing from Sir Astro. Because the way that he did the cloak looks really neat, and I want to get some of that for myself. Okay. Got both those colors mixed up. Okay. So all of those parts of his armor that look sort of like slightly metallic, but that don't look golden. Those are the ones that we're going to paint over with this this leather brown that we're using right now. And then we'll go back over it in glorious gold, or yeah, glorious gold. But we'll also be hitting, for example, the shield with glorious gold, but we're going to paint that white first. And that will give us a different effect on those two. Same deal down here on his belt. This is going to be... Oops. Yeah, some of this is going to be like gold, and some of this is going to be this it's like yellow gold, off gold. I may actually need to mix like a different gold color as well. Mix some of this paint into the gold, just in order to preserve this effect. This is clearly still meant to be metallic, it just isn't that same color. And also don't mind the fact that I completely mispainted one of the sections here. That's fine. Convenient thing about that is that I'm going to repaint that in white anyway, so it's okay. Just have to remember to actually do it and not be dumb. Okay. Okay, so that's those bits. We got one of his pauldrons, the other one in a moment. Just gonna make sure that this is all fully base coated. We'll do the other one, and then we also need to do his bracers, his like weird leather bracers. Let's get in this color as well. I am gonna give his chest piece like proper gold. I think that's gonna look a little bit better. Okay. So once we've got these arm padding bits done, then we'll go around to the back and cover up most of his cloak with this color, or the top of his cloak rather, most of that section. And then we will also be coloring the most of the bottom of his cloak in our beastie brown. We also will probably want to do some touch-ups on this because I'm being a little sloppy here before we start in on the wash. Just gonna stick some of this leftover pigment back there. Okay. This is a very heavily textured section. Just gonna take a little bit to get all the color onto, just because it's so much depth to it. It's also gonna take a fair amount of paint, actually. I might want to use a different brush for this. A bit wider. Just to speed things along, not because you should do this. Kids at home, avert your eyes. I'm gonna use the wrong tool for the job on purpose. Yeah, it's way easier. And then we'll clear that out of our brush. Switch over to Beastie Brown and do the bottom. And then commingle the paints while they're still wet for a blended effect. And that will help us to transition more smoothly between light and shadow, which is not something I really would have known how to do, but it's super cool looking, so we're gonna do that. Okay. And we'll need to clean up some of these edge bits, like over his shoulders. Okay, well, I'll brace myself. My phone and I will be braced. I assume that that's a good thing. And that it's our landlady and I just fed her a nice dinner. I assume that that's a good thing. Okay, well, I'm glad they liked it. Alright. Now, time for the cleanup. We'll do these little bits correctly instead of just rushing through and ignoring all of the important caution and skill. Okay, so that's that side just about done with this color. Not to be arrogant, but my burgers are pretty good. Okay. That part needs a little bit more. Okay, now we'll go back over the Beastie Brown parts. Just make sure that all those are done correctly and also do up The other parts of the fur armor are down on his legs, and his shoes. Both of those are going to get this color as well. Oh, that's not even part of the cloak. Whoops. I need to paint over that. Okay, so that looks good there. Alrighty, yeah, so that's looking good so far. Let's get his legs done up, and his loincloth will also get this color. Let's see, does anything else need it? I don't think so. Oh yes, his weird antenna things need it. It's weird, like, head feathers or whatever. Okay, got the shoes looking good, or at least this shoe. At least this side of the shoe. I'm getting there, I'm getting there. Okay. Commentary is probably not going to be amazing tonight. A little out of it today. Does have this weird, like, smooth area underneath his, underneath the back of his cloak. Sort of flat compared to everything else. It's not too noticeable, especially when it's like down on the table, because you never really see it from that angle, but it still looks a little weird getting up close and painting it. Okay. This other shoe. We can move on from the legs, I think. Alright, almost got it. Probably gonna need more of this color before we're done, actually. That's okay. Okay. Time for the loincloth. And the visible portions of his belt will get this as well. Fortunately, that's quite close, so I don't have to go far for that. Yeah, I definitely need to fix the gray paint. That's okay though. Not a disaster. Okay. I don't think his belt is visible to either side. So it's just going to be that part in the middle, it looks like. Which I'm happy with. We'll need... let's see. I need to get this weird head feather business done. And also probably the back of the shield, and I definitely need to mix more of this color. Whoops. Yeah, okay, let's do that now, because I'm just about out. Give it another 2 drops for now. Double the original amount in total. Alright, get that all stirred up properly. Okay, finish up with this, and then we can move on to touch-ups, and after that we can start in on the wash, I believe. I don't think there's any... Oh, well, we should do the bones first. Some of the undercoating for the metals wouldn't hurt either. Always more to do. Make sure not to over-apply this to overwhelm the texture, because that would be an unfortunate waste of cool details. Okay, so most of this top area done satisfactorily. Areas that just don't quite want to get filled in, depending on the angle I hold it at. These are a lot more fiddly than I expected them to be. Just looking at him, thought it would be pretty straightforward to get these done. Really need to have just every weird angle handled. Okay, I think that's it. Okay. Then we'll quickly touch up the gray and show off his base coats before we get into details. There's a few spots like this. It's not too bad, honestly. Like this has come out better than what I earned with how sloppy I was painting, but that's okay. I'll take it. Okay. So I'm not saying much while I do this, because as we've established pretty firmly by this point, I can't talk and paint details at the same time. So you know, here we are. Okay. Is that little back portion of his arm just about corrected? A little overdone, but I think that's okay. This is neck. So that got a little screwy. Something that is surprisingly difficult in mini painting is getting an edge between two colors that looks completely smooth. Like it's two different surfaces butted up against each other, as opposed to just one surface that has color splashed across it, which honestly has a completely different appearance. I'm not really sure how to articulate what it's like to sort of get that clean line. Like if you look closely, you'll see this problem on just about anything that anybody has ever painted, to some extent or another. Like for example, if you're painting molding, you tape off part of it. You know, if the tape isn't quite right, or if the you know, if the tape is like semi-permeable, so like even if it's taped perfectly, if the tape is exactly where it needs to be, sometimes the tape is slightly permeable or not completely adhered, and you get these slight variations as you go across that surface. And most of the time that doesn't matter because we're talking about, you know, a line of a, you know, half a millimeter along some molding. But on something of this scale, there isn't any space to make mistakes like that. You know, you do anything like that, you're going to see it on the finished product. It's going to be obvious. It's going to be visible. Because if you're close enough to see the details, you're also close enough to see the mistakes. Which is, I don't know, it's just really interesting. It's very satisfying when you like successfully avoid or correct for that. So it is also a very hard effect to achieve, just that complete smooth line. It's much more common and much easier to get a nearly smooth line. That's table ready. That's suitable for gameplay. But like the real pros have worked out how not to have that problem quite so much. And that's just a skill that I haven't quite mastered yet. Actually, whoops. It's a whole bunch. Excuse me. There's a whole bunch of his cloak that's visible under there. Crap. And I guess that's okay because I forgot to do the inside of his shield anyway. Whoops. Okay. Just some of this paint spread around in here. Then we'll go for some of the better concealed bits up inside his armpit. So those are going to be a little bit hard to get. Okay, I think I got that to my satisfaction. Sort of hard to tell. I suppose some of that will be more obvious after we do our wash. I do need to get the bottom of this guy though. Didn't quite get any color to it. Okay, I think that's all right. Do now need to touch up his leg again because I've gone and screwed that up, but that's okay. Just get that paint off of there. Don't want brown paint on his gray skin, do we? Yeah, that looks okay. Alright, so white and bone white now. I'll start with the bone white. What if you do what? Sorry, your chat is a little bit behind what I'm saying, and thoughts just kind of pass through my brain while I'm doing this, so I don't know what you're saying. Oh, you tried to get... Oh, I appreciate you trying to get people to join. Thank you. Oh dear. want the brown paint on the gray skin. Well, look, I don't. I play this character. That's not how I want my guy to look. And that's my business, you know. Yeah, I do. I'm so excited that I threw some paint inside the bottle, thankfully. Excuse me, I threw a wash. Alrighty. So we'll use the bone white for, as you might guess, the skulls down here on his kneecaps. It's going to be the base coat down there. You retweeted me. Why would you do that? I wanted to be retweeted. Why would you tweet me? Thank you, though. I appreciate that. The MCU birds, yeah, I thought you might get a kick out of that. Like I said, it's just for you. Bucket Borns, yes. Taunt Stank, yes, that too. Him too. I am glad that that amuses you. I was so hoping. Okay, so almost got these skulls base coated. Nearly. This paint is very thin, so I'm probably going to have to go over a couple parts of this. This is, of course, just the base coat, and we can always highlight in this color again later, if we need. Okay. And now, because I am an absolute mess today, I need to go back over and cover up some of my mistakes here. Hot mess, yeah, seriously though. Huh. Okay, so there's that fixed. Now we'll fix the top as well. Crap. I've overdone it. You guys, this is what real fun looks like when you repeatedly paint over the same spot in different colors. What am I going to do after I finish painting these minis? I'm not sure if I'll go back to gaming or switch over to doing battle stations and other mini projects. For one thing, it would be a shame to waste the momentum that I've built up on this. Gloomhaven, yeah. My Havoon is definitely glum today. I'm kind of hoping to sort of pivot into doing different mini painting. Is Gloomhaven better? Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven. Glumhavoon. Depends on what you're going for, really. Power Rangers and Hamtaro. Well, I don't have any Hamtaro minis, and I don't have any Power Rangers minis yet. But I will be doing those when I get them. All 150. Hamtaro as Power Rangers. Well, if you can get me some Hamtaro figures that look close enough to Power Rangers characters, then I'm willing to give it a go. I'll just to be perfectly candid with you, I'd be very surprised if that happens. But I am not taking responsibility for making that occur. That's just gonna not be my problem. There are Ham Rangers? Is that actually a thing? Like in Hamtaro? Is that really actually real? I really want that to be real. It's Japanese, so I wouldn't be entirely surprised. Oh boy. Give me a minute and then I will look at that link. I'm scared. Alright, let's see this. Oh, these guys, yeah. Super heroic hamsters, Ham Rangers. Oh boy. You know, I've only actually seen these sprites out of context. So... Here, hold on. I mean, if you can, whoops. If you can manage to get me some figures, I'll paint them. I won't feel good about myself after I do it, but I will paint them. I'd seen the sprite sheets, but I didn't know that's what that was. I'm not entirely sure that I didn't use one of those sprites, actually. So, Oh, hey, welcome. We are doing Gordure the Brute. And at the moment, I am pre-coating... I am pre-base coating the parts that are getting the bright, glorious gold color. And you'll note that I'm not doing... Oh, we are, yes. Sorry. Whoop. That's bad. Unist. What? Alright, let's see what this is. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. But same goes. If you can track down a mini, I'll paint it. I mean, you might both have to pay me for that, but... We'll paint mini for followers and money, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, sort of baked into that is the assumption that you would end up keeping the weird mini that you provided. Alright, I'm curious your perspective on this. Because Mel's been trying to convince me lately that Hamtaro is, like, definitely a normal thing for an adult to be into. Which is not by itself anything that I need to be convinced of, because goodness knows my hobbies and habits are weird enough, but... But, like, Hamtaro, really? So okay, but like why though? What about Hamtaro? Because like the only case you've made is it's cute, which I'm not, like either way. I'm not making a statement on it. I don't care for the art style terribly, but like there's nothing objectively wrong with it. League of Villains, the Onion headlines bonus. Okay, what am I seeing here? I am seeing a page that loads very slowly. Oh, okay. What? Yeah, I recognize these characters, but what even? It's very weird. Okay, alright. Gotta wash my brush, because in the time that it took me to look at that post, the paint dried. Alright. Back at it. How are we coping with crippling depression and loneliness? So, I mean, that's just generally an actually good question. Like, not even for me personally, although it is a good question there too. But, like, how are we doing as a culture with that? As an onion head, like, no, I know. I get the joke. It's just also, like, actually a really big social issue, is all. That's all I'm saying. Oof. Yet again, so sloppy. Need to do touch-ups. Okay, another round of touch-ups, shall we? Grief. This white paint just gets stuck in the bristles. Alright, and more touch-ups. Okay. That looks acceptable. Now let's white up at... Well, no, the blade shouldn't need any extra white, I don't think. Is there anything else that I'm missing? No. No, we're ready to show off and then give them a wash. And then show off again. Alright. Up close and personal with Gordeau, the brute. I feel like he's looking pretty good so far. So, let's get our sepia shade and black wash mixed up. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so that's why we base coated them fairly light, but we're not going to keep them that way. So we are giving it sepia and black over everything, which is going to darken up all of those colors considerably. So we're going to go with 4, well, 3.5 drops sepia and 2 drops black. See how that looks. That's about the color I was thinking. For the record, this is absolutely not how Sir Astro's tutorial recommends doing this. I'm doing it this way because I'm a scrub who don't know any better. Actually, I do know better, just do not have the skills to execute anything else, so this is what we're doing. Yeah, basically. Okay. And I might even need more of the swash. Grief. This is using it up so quickly. Don't want very much on the shield, but I do want some. At least on the front of it. Doesn't matter quite so much how much of this gets on the areas with the gold in them. Since those are going to get more paint than most of the rest of them after this. Oh gosh, I think I'm just going to have barely enough of this wash to get the rest of them. Maybe. It's going to be very close. I've basically got one brushful left. This is the one. I can of course mix more, but I'd rather not because I'm terrifically lazy. Okay. Just trying to make sure that this stuff deposits in all the right areas instead of just anywhere. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. So that's him washed up. And that means it's time for close-up. To show how much he has changed. Just in the last couple seconds. Blah. And that's how his skull knee pads look now. Washes are amazing. Pre-mixed washes are also very helpful because it means that I don't have to get this consistency right myself. Just like that. Frick, I'm just about happy with his boots how they are now. Might touch them up a little bit, but they're actually pretty good. Just gonna put him there for a second. Okay. Yes, yes, yes I do. No, I am not done. I'm not even close. No, we're like maybe at the half point if we're being super generous. But for speed painting, yeah, this is totally suitable. Maybe just a couple details. You know, maybe like metalize the blade and the shield, and you know, give him fancy glowing eyes, and maybe touch up his head or something. If we were speed painting, but that's not the goal here. We're trying to get these nice. And we're not there yet. We got a ways to go. Speedweed. You know what? You name a character Speedweed, and and we'll see about speed painting. So, brief music recommendation while we're waiting for that wash to dry. Nine Treasures is a Mongolian folk metal band. They are super cool. Speed painting is just dumping a mini in a bucket of paint. Sometimes it is. It honestly is. There are definitely some minis that need literally nothing but that. I've seen some really entertaining photos that are like, you know, they're actually pretty decent paint jobs, but it's literally just like for there's like a howtopaintminiatures.com or something, and they have like an air elemental that's like the tornado with an angry face on it, and literally what they considered to be a top-notch, perfectly good job was you take the mini, you paint it purple, like sort of a pale purple, you wash it with just a slightly less pale purple, and then you dry brush it with white, and it's done. And yeah, it looks passable. You know, it's a perfectly valid speed paint technique, but I wouldn't sell it to anybody. So he has been washed pretty heavily, so it's going to take a little while for this to dry. It's about halfway there. And yeah, at this point you can kind of start to see the limitations of the washing technique. You know, not necessarily where it's not doing its job, but where it's not enough to, you know, to just kind of power through and finish the project with nothing but this. So you can see, you know, his face has no detail at all. It has some definition now. You know, you can see where the shadows are, but it has no highlights, it has no details or anything. You know, the skulls look pretty much fine. Like, I'm not going to do too much else to those, but his blade is just gray. And this is a horrible mess. Now, I colored it like that so that we can put gold on it later, not because that's the way that that's actually going to be shaded. You know, so stuff like that we're definitely going to need to change as we go. But we can't really do much else to him until this dries up. So, we've got a few areas left to go before we can really start hitting him again. New paint colors. See, I'm pondering trying to do his sword right now. I might be able to get away with that. Okay, the promised phone exploding might have started. Let me check. Oh, no. I am simply going crazy. Don't mind me. Phantom vibration symptom a go-go. Okay, so while he's finishing up, while he's continuing to dry up, let's go ahead and get some more of these colors mixed. Let's see. Phantom buzz, yeah. Yeah, no, that is actually a thing. I'm pretty happy with the wood texture that we've got. I think that looks pretty good. I don't think I need to do anything else to that. I think actually highlighting it might hurt rather than help. The cloak definitely needs some help, though. I'm going to be dry brushing that with bone white. So very, very fine dry brush of that. So we'll probably want to mix bone white with those two colors. So some leather brown and bone white, and some beastie brown and bone white. And that is very alliterative. And then those highlight colors can also be used for the rest of the furs on him, which are all going to get similar treatment. Okay. These all mixed together. And hopefully I can actually do this before they all dry. This time. Okay. So we'll grab up our dry brush as we always do. And it looks like this is dried up sufficiently that we can start doing highlights. So let's start in on that. These areas I think are going to look real neat with this sort of shading, because of how much depth they have to their texture. going to kind of make it look a little bit like sun-bleached. The way that we're doing this. It's actually coming out a little lighter than it looks on the palette, which I don't think is bad necessarily. It's not quite what I expected when I started in on this. I'm actually going to highlight using the base beastie brown color on some of this, because that wash distorts the color enough that this is just going to resaturate it slightly without changing the color that it is already. And only on the raised areas, which is a desirable trait. So this is going to kind of mitigate the effect of that wash, which made it very dark actually. At least on the affected portions. We'll use a little bit of dry brushing of our lighter, what color even is this? Leather brown. A heavy dry brush on these horns to highlight just the tops and raised portions. And we're not going to go quite all the way down with that, so that it will have sort of like an inconsistent effect across the surface. Look a little bit more believable as feathers. Yeah, that's looking good. We'll do the same thing to his bracers, his leather bracers. And then something similar will also happen to his skin. But I think we're going to want to lighten that just a touch. And we're probably going to want to use the bone white for that as well, because it's really that same kind of yellowed gray in both places. So we'll get, ooh, let's not throw any more paint. Done that quite enough today. Well, actually, you know what? We can just use some of the paint that we already had, because that's not dried up yet. It is time for our crappy paint mixing brush. Which is filled with soap from last night. Oh boy. Alright. Got that sufficiently cleaned out, I think. So, some of that out here. And that way we don't have to do as much remixing of colors. You have to add some bone white and a little bit more thinner, though. Stop getting excited. Yeah, no, it's truly one of my greatest faults. I throw paint when I'm excited. About anything, it's, you know, we made it through tax season, I better throw some paint. That's a normal adult thing to do, right? The perfect image for your disclaimer. Well, I mean, the Creative Commons license is already a good start. Let's see it. $30 shrimp, $11.99. Price is higher in Times Square and Hawaii. I'll be honest, I don't get it. I'm very confused. Well, that's because the prices may be different in Hawaii thing. A goofy image. Or I guess more to the point, what a goofy search result. So at the moment, we're just putting a dry brush of that lightened gray onto him. Still a little bit on the actually too gray side, I think. Gonna add a little bit more of our leather brown to that mix. So I'm kind of dissatisfied with how gray our gray actually is. Pata, 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 pata. Yeah. On my end, I can barely hear it. I suspect it's just because the camera is actually bumped up against the desk that pata pata was happening on. So I do apologize if the noise was inordinately loud. I have no way of telling because it's actually quite soft on my side. That's a little better. Yeah, I mean, I gathered. It's not V loud in real life. That's any consolation. Not really sure why it would be a consolation, but if it is, be consoled. Come on, I just need a little bit more paint out of this brush. Please. Please. Paint on the palette kind of dried up real fast on me. Okay, I think that's alright. Okay. Let's see, do we need to do anything else to him at the moment before we move on to the next thing? That looks okay. Hands look okay, the kneecaps look okay. Weird belt thing looks okay. Chest looks okay, the head looks okay. Freaky head feathers actually look great. Boots look okay. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good on this. So here's the result. The real question is, what? Do my kneecaps look okay? I assume so. I haven't checked. So there's his freaky head feathers, and we'll just give him the head to toe as usual. He is indeed quite grumpy. He is a bit of toothy as well. So we're actually going to give his the inside of his mouth a little bit of black. This is now's actually probably a pretty good time to do that. So we've done all the stuff around it. And we're also going to be using a little bit of bone white, just a very small amount, to lighten the areas on the side of his head. Grab a detail brush for this. Yeah, 10-0 should be okay. Carving on his sword. What carving are you referring to? A mole. So we're going to give him some horrific dental problems for a second, and then remove the paint afterwards. On the tip of his sword? I'm not seeing it. There's like a little bit of it that looks sort of rusty, which might be what you're referring to. But I'm not seeing anything that I would describe like what you're saying. This pigment is very thick. Well, that's not actually even slightly the right word for what's happening here. Okay, that should be fine. I've accidentally given him quite a lot of definition to his nostrils, which is, I suppose, realistic, if not necessarily what I thought was going to happen there. We are going to just grab up a little bit more of this paint mix that we had earlier. Not much, because there's not much to be had, but a little. And we're just gonna fix his face. That. Or completely mess his face up, that would be fine too. The heck did I just do? Yeah, so the rustish bit I'm actually not going to be doing much with. But I will be painting the jewel on the hilt. No, but for realsies, what the heck did I just do to his mouth? Why did that happen? Just gonna have to do this a little more cautiously than I expected. Yeah, that should be good. Okay, for all the trouble that caused me, I'm going to show that off by itself. Bleh. It actually doesn't look particularly good, but it's good enough. Okay. That was silly. Alright, so let's see. What do we need to do next? Got the gunmetal on his sword, followed by his little red jewel. We've got all of the gold parts and his eyes. I think that might be it. Okay. Looks like it's time for gold. Do 2 drops of the actual gold paint, and then we're going to thin it out pretty far because we want the underlying colors to show through a bit. 4 drops of thinner. We'll see how that looks on the shield. So that's going to be where it's most forgiving, I think. Okay. I want to kind of have like a beaten look. this might do really well for that. Yeah, this is actually looking pretty good. It's coming out close to how I'd hoped. Okay. Now let's do the edges. Spiky little bits are kind of annoying. That's okay. I'll live. Somehow. Somehow I will survive painting these weird little spiky bits. Even though they're not that bad. Just a minor annoyance. Fiddly, but okay. Nice simple shapes. Nothing too complicated. There's certainly some parts of this that I'd like to be a little bit brighter than they necessarily have to be. So those are probably going to get a second coat. Or at least a thicker first coat. Because, yeah, I'm really lazy sometimes. Or maybe it's more accurate to say I can be lazy about some things. So I'm pretty much lazy about the number of coats of paint, no matter what. There are other things that I'm just kind of never, like, I try not to be lazy about. So, don't know. Don't know how best to explain my laziness, other than that it's definitely there some of the time. Ooh, this is a fiddly bit. The inner rim of that is very, very small. Very stressful to paint. I'm pretty sure that I did it wrong in a few places. Or not wrong, but in a way that I didn't want it to be. It's fine how it is, but I don't love those specific spots as much. This camera angle is not great, but that's okay. Or I should say this angle. Crap. Crap. Let's get that out of there before it dries. He's just gonna have some sparkle to him because I literally can't get all that gold paint out of there. Crap. Might even have to repaint that, jeez. Let's see, is any of this still sufficiently wet correct for that? Yeah, looks like we can... Maybe we can make do with some of this. Oh, that's not the right color. Ah! Gotta fix it, but it made it worse. Oof, that is a very noticeable flaw. Wow. Okay, gotta fix that. Then we can go back to doing the gold stuff. Wow, I really screwed that one up. Pretty much one of those problems that just kind of self-perpetuates once it starts in. There just isn't really anything that you can do about it. Except for start fresh. Which sucks a little bit, but, you know, necessary is necessary. Oh, jeez. Okay. Our brush repointed. Okay, yeah, that's okay. We will rewash that area. And additionally, wash underneath here again as well, because there wasn't enough wash to properly fill that in. May as well do it now while the getting is good. That doesn't need any highlighting at all because it's completely in shadow. Okay, when that dries out we can re-dry brush it, but first, since that's going to take a little while, let's keep going on the gold. Since there's only that one spot that we need to correct. Good blurg, that was very bad. Okay, and that's the shield done. Let's do this weird little belt buckle. And find his right hand belt buckle and his left hand belt buckle, because, you know, he's just kind of an extra dude that way. What a slightly weird fashion sense, this guy. Do around the edges of these too, because they look kind of weird without it. Okay. Yeah, pretty happy with that. Let's do his other pre-golded, pre-yellowed bits, since they're going to have a little bit of a different look to them. Give me a second to finish up with this business, then I will take a look at that. So not producing as much distinction as I would have thought, even with as thin as this paint is. Okay, might need to thin it out further, actually. Alright. What is this now? This most you image ever. Visual Rooster. I mean, yeah. Okay, now back over here. Back to Gloomhaven Fashion Week, where it's all pauldrons all day. Is it camp? I guess it depends on how you use it. It's just the image by itself, I'd say no. But, like, I can easily imagine you finding ways of applying it that I would definitely call very campy. So, you know, it neither is nor is not camp by itself. Yeah, no, I heard about that. RuPaul apparently even weighed in on it at one point, although I haven't seen the video. Yeah, the gala or his commentary? Oh yeah, absolutely. He's kind of like he's as classy as you can get and still call it camp, but it's camp. Almost got this. It's time to switch to a detail brush for this because these are small. And I need to replicate previously drawn lines, which is hard to do. There's a couple spots of that are kind of sloppy. Problem is that this paint is very hard to clean up after when I make those sorts of mistakes. The metallic paints are probably the least forgiving thing that I've got, which is a shame. I really like using them. Okay, I think we've corrected my earlier mistake, just about. Okay, I'm happy with that. As far as corrections go. Shield's looking pretty good. I'm happy with that as well. I don't like how many little sloppy spots there are. Those are not obvious from a distance, so I'm not going to correct them for now. Let's see, we do still have some gold to put on there. Although, I want to do that. Not without thinning it further. That's what we'll do. We will thin it down. And the ratio we're going to use is 4:1 thinner to paint. It's going to be very thin. Still kind of thick. Wow. These metallic paints, man. Pardon my rustling. Let's actually test this down here. Yeah, okay, that should be about right. I think. Sort of hard to gauge, but we'll guess and check. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that. I like that very much. Still gonna have to be super cautious with it. These are fiddly parts of the figure. I think that is a very good color for this. Very good thickness for the paint. And I've just spotted another error. Yay. My favorite. Well, it's because you can't see what I'm doing. Much less at the level of magnification that I'm seeing it at. But you will get your chance to look. A couple of moments here. I think I've played that mistake off relatively well. Kind of looks on purpose now. Kind of. Okay, is that all of the gold? I think it is. Yes, that appears to be correct. Not quite, there's one more little spot that I missed earlier. We do want this to use the thinner color, so it is okay that we didn't spot it earlier. We want it to retain its shadowing. I'm pretty happy with that effect overall. Some spots that I don't love, but mostly it's good. All right. Hello. So that's where he's at right now. We still need the red detailing on a couple of spots. We need to color his eyes. We need to tint the sides of his face and forehead, because he seems to have some kind of like mutton chops thing going on. And then we need to do the gunmetal on his sword and the buckles on their braces. So let's get mixing the gunmetal. So that's going to be the next thing. So 2 drops of that. We'll also need a little bit of black and a little bit of white to either side for the highlighting on the sword blade. There's our white. And some black. We'll get our thinner, 2 drops there, 1 drop there, and 1 drop there. Perfect, perfect. Gunmetal's probably going to be a little bit thick, but that's okay. Okay, so there's our light gunmetal color. And we've got our dark gunmetal color. And we will get our detail brush and use the actual gunmetal color, just gunmetal. Toss some of this onto the sword blade, just to get it off of the brush while I do these details. Very small. There's that side. Let's do this side as well. To be very cautious with this because these are very small. Yeah, looks good. Just get the rest of this pigment off onto the blade so we don't waste it. We'll clean the little guy. Well, actually not quite. We do want to use this for the handle. It's very small and close in on a bunch of other details that we don't want to disrupt with this paint. So we'll just do the edges with this brush and then switch back over to the 3-0. bottom there. Color the front of the bottom of the hilt, or handguard rather. Like I said, fiddly. And unfortunately, this particular color is one of the metallics that are not super easy to get off of places you don't want them. So the best bet is to just not get them anywhere that you don't want them in the first place. That bit looks good. Do this part on the back here. Okay. Alright, that's looking good, so we'll switch back over to the 3-0 now for the larger stuff. And in particular, the highlighting on the edges of the blade. First, we gotta get it base coated. I think I might give it like a mix of the gunmetal and the scarlet color that I'm going to use for some of the smaller details in order to make some of these textury bits stand out a little bit better. Might want to do that now before I do the highlighting, because otherwise I think they get a little funky looking. Alternately, a dry brush might be easier. I'm not sure. Probably shouldn't do a dry brush for this. That's not the right technique. All right. So there's that. Coming up on time here, but we're pretty close. We're going to be able to finish this up, I think. So yeah, just a tiny little bit of our scarlet red, and then just like loads of thinner, 3 drops, 3 to 1, on a color that is not especially thick. We're gonna make that mixed in with the gunmetal, and that will imitate our rusting effect, which is actually worth it. I think that'll make his blade stand out a little bit better. So we will actually want even more of thinner on that, so we need it very thin in order not to overwhelm the main paint. There's a couple things we can do to correct if this goes wrong, but I'd rather get it right the first time if I can. If I can manage. Well, it's the right thickness anyway. Some paint off of me here. Just do the whole thing. Why not? Okay, that's going to be a minute to dry, I think. But I will pull off the portion on the top and bottom of the blade so that we can then start doing the highlights on that. Okay. Make sure we got this dark enough. Shadow color that we're going to use. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. That's going to be the sword's edge. I'm going to highlight the back of it with a lighter color. Okay. I want to use that red wash on the area around the handle. Not sure. Well, let me grab up the white for his eyes, which need to be lightened so that I can paint the orange on and have it show up. And super chalky white paint, as always. Hey. You basically get like 1 or 2 strokes with this, and then it's just done. It's like, nope, you don't get to use me anymore. And it sticks to the tip. That's also annoying. Somehow I managed to give him an inverted teardrop tattoo for a second there. But that's cleaned up now. Okay. Alright, so we'll get our hot orange. Put some of that down on the palette. We need very little. Stir that up, and then we're actually going to mix a tiny bit of that with the white for an overlaid highlight color on the eyes. There we go. That's a good color for that. Let's grab that up with the brush. Or not. There we go. That's too thin. That's better. I don't think I shook it well enough. Okay, his eyeball is looking good there. Now we're going to use just a tiny bit of white here to highlight just the very edge of this blade. These little raised bits. Very, very sparse. Just enough to make it pop. Okay, so now that we've done that, the eye should be just about dried up. Use our highlight color to fill that last little dot in on each of them. And in the process, make him look just the tiniest bit wall-eyed. Perfect. Okay. Now we need our scarlet red for the handful of details that need that. Just one drop of that and some thinner. So there's 3 little spots on his chest piece, and a jewel inset on the hilt of his sword. And I believe those are the last 3 details that we need, and then he is done. Okay. Might want just a tiny bit of white on that, just to make it pop out just a teensy little bit. As it is, it's a little bit bland. Doesn't need much. Just the tiniest little spot. Yeah, nice. And that's the starting 6. Let's see, where do we want him? That's good. Right. Yeah, if I was going to do that, I would have done it already. I have thought about it, but no. We have not earned the content yet. And now you can see him up close. Oh crap, wait, I forgot his weird head thing. That would be cheating, yes. Thank you. I appreciate the praise. What would be a reaction give? Just this guy getting closer and closer to the camera? Because if so, I'm right there with you. Okay. Give him this weird head thing. Wait, is that? I think he's got earrings in. Oh dang, I like that detail. Even if that's not what it is, I'm absolutely painting those gold. Hold on a sec. Just noticed. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Okay, now we can bring him back in. He's got his weird face thing going on. Gold earrings. Oops. Wait a minute. Thank you. I worked hard to get that right. And now, before I forget again, it's time to paint the base. And then we are done with the entire starting six. I'm awfully proud of myself for that. And we are going to need to use a small brush for some of the bits near his feet, because if we do not do that, then he will have black feet. Some of the minis are spaced far enough apart that I don't have to do that, but not this guy. He has a very narrow stance. Yeah, see, did you hear what I just said about black on his feet? And now he has black on his feet. Crap. Easy enough to clear away, though. Go around the outside here as well. You guys proud of me? I finished a project for once. It's an unusual occurrence, regardless of context. Okay, looks just about uniform. It's good. Now we will get the bits under his feet. Which are actually kind of hard to get at. So we'll use our detail brush for that. Even though this is definitely not going to be good for the brush. And this paint being what it is, an unthinned mess, is very hard to work with for any sort of detail application. So that's cool. I've obviously completely done this to myself. Okay. Nearly got it. Missed a spot. Fixed the spot. Okay. Now we're done. Alright, face is all done. Face is all done. His buddies are all done. We have our starting 6. I am terribly proud of myself. He still needs his coat of dull coat. But then we've got our whole gang. Pardon the noise. And we even have the drunk machine. just here to have fun, you know? Alrighty. Well, that is the end of this project. I'm thinking I might go back to gaming starting tomorrow, or I might keep painting stuff. I think some of that's going to depend on what the stream likes. Excuse me. I'll for sure run a Twitter poll, start that up tonight, let people vote. But also, even if I don't go on with painting on stream, I do still want to paint the rest of the Battle Stations minis, get the what's it called? The dragon from Shifting Realms painted. And after that, if I'm still kind of feeling the painting vibe, then I'll move on to Mice and Mystics. And I think that'll be regardless of whether I do it on stream or not. Because like doing it on stream is fun, but it also requires a lot of like finding something to comment on, which I don't think makes for the best viewing experience necessarily. I just hope it's been educational, is all. That's you know, I don't expect that this is terribly like entertaining, but I do hope that at least it's given you guys some insight on the process that I used to create these, and some sort of help getting started on your own projects if you haven't already done that. And I am actually saying this also for the benefit of the video on demand, if anybody watches this later. But yeah, I think with that we're just about done for the night, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.